Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nate, and this is the Pack Podcast. Today, we're sitting with Trashika, who is going to tell her experiences as a small business owner because it's really unique when you hear them. But I'm done talking. I want you to do the talking because this is your moment. So please, tell us about your business.
Yes. So, hi. It's first of all, it's great to be a part of this podcast. And my name is Trashika, and my small business, humble business, it's about uh, it's about digital marketing and digital operations. So I specialize in digital strategy and back end operations. And the tagline which goes with my brand is from overwhelmed to organized. That's how I like to call it. So what I essentially do is, as entrepreneurs, like when you start your business, right, you're hands on with everything from
Yeah.
sales
Oh,
to
yeah.
finance, client handling to everything, right? But eventually, when you are in that stream for a while, after some time, you want to delegate things to other people, right? And that's where I come into picture. So I take you from doing multiple tasks and having to do like the client work, also your personal branding, your company branding, or you're taking care of your vendors or your clients or your investors, right? So there are a lot
Yeah.
of parties you handle, right? So that's where I come into organizing that process, that system, automating a lot of things, and making it simpler. Like for example, once you get a lead, right?
Mhm.
And then they fill up the form and you send them an automated email that, okay, thank you for writing to us and we'll get back to you. And then you have your meeting and everything. So most often, like after you have had your meeting, you have submitted the proposal, people forget to follow up,
Very true.
right? So that can also be automated, right? So small things like that, like how often you should follow up, and even if the lead did not work out, you can mail them after a few months saying that, oh, it did not work out, then how's your business going now,
Right.
right? So that's where I help out with my back end operations thing. And then digital strategy is where I talk about how your business can expand in different stream, like on website, what can you do if you're launching a product or a service? What are the campaigns you should do? What is the flow of events, the funnel flow? And yeah, that's exactly what I do. That's one part of it. And then the second part is when I engage in projects with my set of vendors, and I take care of website projects, email marketing or SEO, and then performance marketing. And yeah, that's essentially what I do.
You're a busy lady because all those things are crucial for when not only just an operation is trying to scale. I mean, let's face it, we all can't do it ourselves our entire lives. Maybe you want to work on other things in life because the business is one little baby. But, as it grows and we grow as entrepreneurs, things happen. You might have a child come into the picture and you might need support with that lead generation or just following up. And I really like that you mentioned the whole issue of people failing to follow up because I believe it's only 10% of people actually follow up after a discovery call to see if someone's interested. And even if they aren't interested, you still have that data of where in that chain of events did they stop and go, you know what, I'm not interested, so that you can say, hey, this is still in your cart. That's one automation we've all seen. So that's a great value that you are able to bring to a business, especially the little guys.
Thank
Now,
you. And I think
yeah.
it's great that you mentioned the analytics part, because most often we forget to get back to it. So like when you said that, we essentially know when the lead has fallen out of that
Mhm.
whole conversion process. That's how we can optimize our follow-up strategy as well. So if price was the problem, then we can have
Yes.
some have some pre-packaged service wherein it is we are getting benefited because of the economies of scale, and they are getting benefited because it's cheaper, right? So we can play through that when we know the analytics. And of course, first recognizing that need, that we need to set up those analytics.
That's
So
perfect
yeah.
because you're setting yourself up to receive more data and make data driven decisions. And it's not so much, oh, my gut says to do this, even if it might be correct. You're like, well, why are we sending this email to say, hey, this is left in your cart? Well, 90% of our traffic got stopped at the cart. Is there something that we can update with the user interface, which then
Mm.
introduces other offers you have? So, very smart to definitely layer your offerings in a way where you're able to help multiple people at various points, but it's just a streamlined approach for you. So I gotta ask for your business, where did the inspiration come from? Like what started, I woke up, I now want to help people from what it sounds like the operational aspect and then just that creativity to help them in their digital transition and or digital needs.
I think my story has been, I don't know, it has evolved, I would say. Okay, I have been that kid who has always loved organizing her wardrobe. Like, if you look
Right.
at my wardrobe, because that's how it starts, right? Like, when you're a kid, you're only in charge of your one cupboard or your room when you get your independent room, right? So I have been that person who is very particular about like keeping her clothes in a certain way, keeping her pens in a certain way, or like keeping her books in a certain way, right? That's how it started for me. Like even during summer vacations when I used to visit my cousin's place, right, I was the one who would see like their toys here and there, and I'd be
Oh
like,
wow. You go and organize.
yeah. So I'm like, you know what? What's a fun game? Let's organize this. Where can we keep it? And my aunt used to be so happy. She's like, haha, you do this. Yes, definitely. Go ahead. Clean the room or clean the wardrobe. And it would be fun for me as well. Right. So it started with that. And
Mhm.
eventually I realized that like I keep the space organized. And before that, what happened was when I went to college, I used to think like before I went to college, actually, I used to think that everybody is disorganized. Like,
Right. Oh
you know,
yeah. No. Oh man.
I used to think that this is such a normal thing. Like, if you have a belonging, you have to keep it like in
You
a
would take care of
proper
it.
way. Yeah, exactly. And but when I went to college, I realized that okay, not everybody does it that way. So even for my roommates, I used to clean their wardrobe, and I used to be like, okay, leave the room, let me put
Mhm.
on some music, and let me clean the wardrobe. So that's how it started for me, and then later on I realized that that translated into me keeping my digital space also organized. And then I
Right.
realized that okay, entrepreneurs, not every entrepreneur also like has the time or knows how to organize their digital space, right? Because I think that's when the overwhelming thing comes from. So, like, if you see my desktop right now, it's empty. It's
Mhm.
literally empty. But like, I have seen desktops which have so many icons, and I'm always wondering, like,
Oh, don't look at
don't you get
mine. I have.
no? For me, I'm like, don't you get stressed looking at so many icons? Like, where to focus on? You know? So I think that's how it evolved into organizing stuff and making a streamlined process and automating a lot of things, because the more clear it is in the space that you are, your mind is even clearer. So if you have like ideas coming, and as a
Mhm.
creative entrepreneur, like the ideas keep coming, right? Oh, I should try this on. Oh, I read about this. Let's try this on. Oh, this software is coming new. Let's try that on. Right. So there
Interesting.
are
Yeah.
so many ideas that are coming in your head. And I think if you do not take it out from your head, it gets overwhelming and it's stressful to have so many things, and the urge to work on everything. So you get an idea and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, I hope I don't forget, let me start working on it, right? And I think if you have that space, digital space, or somewhere where you can write that idea down so that it is out of your head, and you have a certain date or a time where you can actually brainstorm on that idea, that brings about a lot of change, because you can focus on the task that you decided for the day, and then you can work on the idea that you thought of later,
No,
right?
that is actually so true because I mean, speaking on my own, I've had to really adapt to having a list. What are my three priorities I want to focus on? And then other to dos, but there's a limit because it's, as an entrepreneur, and I know you understand this, you're drinking from a fire hose. How much do I have to know? How much do I have to teach myself? Working on your offer. And then the
Mm.
market, whether it's market research or seeing what new things are coming out, whether it's AI, whether it's different forms of automation, whether it's what's consumer behavior looking like. Are people more reactive to this on social media or to this on a website? And there's never a, oh, yeah, I've got everything done, because then you're refining certain things because you learn along the way. So I think being able to have that support with a formal data dump, if that's at
Yeah.
least how I process it, to all right, it's here. I know this is an idea that I want to put energy into, but it doesn't have to be, in the back of my head going, when are we going to work on this? When are we going to work on this? Because that, I believe, that's one thing that hurts a lot of entrepreneurs, that
Yeah.
work ethic to just get stuff done, which is awesome to have, but then a little bit of perfectionism, trying to be a perfectionist kicks in,
Mm.
and you're like, wow, this isn't good enough. Let me not post it, or let me not put it out into the world, when you're more than welcome to do that and upgrade or update it as need be. And speaking along those lines, you see a lot of people on social media that are promoting superficial information. And with you having offerings that support the marketing aspect, how do you feel when people are, touching base with imposter syndrome, or how they approach the subject when you're working with a client?
I think the first time I read this term, imposter syndrome, I
Mhm.
found it very superficial, because I was not an entrepreneur then. And I saw this, I think there was a webinar I saw, and this person was talking about imposter syndrome. And I was like, why would people feel like an imposter? Because for a layman person, it's very clear that you are a specialist. I'm
Right.
here to learn from you. So why would you feel like an imposter? Because I don't know anything, right? But I think imposter syndrome, I have felt it myself. Like when I started my independent journey, that's when I felt it. And um, I think it's all because when you are on social media or any other digital platform, like, and everybody is telling you about, oh,
Oh man.
this is, yeah, you can do this in 30 days, you can do it in
Yeah.
60 days and 90 days. And I'm like, I have been doing this from 30 days, but I haven't gotten that result. Am I an imposter for like broadcasting that you can do it? Or like, am I not helping my clients in the best way possible, or are they the best people to help out? But I think what's important is like to understand where they are coming from. Like they
Yeah.
have had their own journey, they have gone through their hurdles, and now they have a proper system through which they have this they have prepared a business model, and now they are offering this service so that you can do it faster.
Yeah.
Faster is the keyword, without like repeating the same mistakes that they have. But like that is not to say that you won't have your own mistakes too. Even if you even if I were to tell you that, oh, this thing worked for me, and you say that, okay, yes, I'm going to implement it, you are going to still have your own journey with that idea or with that strategy, because the times would have changed, or like the market is different, or I don't know, like so many things, variations change,
I
right? So imposter.
really, yeah, that is perfect. Not to cut you off, that was perfect of how to like break that down, because we all have our different perspectives of what worked for us. And not
Mm,
everyone is as open to be, vulnerable to say, hey, when I first started out, I thought this course was going to be the end all be all, but it wasn't. It didn't work for me. It might work for somebody else, and that's okay.
yeah.
And, it's just the learning process that all entrepreneurs go through, because there are going to be some wins of, oh, I found this proper tool, partnership, and experience. And there's just the lessons of, that's not my target audience. I'm not a fan of partner pods. I'm not going to go and engage in a partner pod, and we're all just going to up a post, even though that's not for my ideal target audience. That might work for somebody else, and that's all right. But like you said, it's for everyone to decide, is that what you want on your journey, and just do a little bit of feasibility testing, because
Yeah.
I think the recent trend of overnight success, and you have insert specific date to get the result you want. Like we all want to have the results as soon as possible. Let me clarify that. But sometimes, oh, well, I'm not the best or proficient with AI. So in 30 days to have AI automation, do I trust the person that's teaching me or doing this for me, so that if something happens, they're really off the hook? What am I going to call them every time they have an issue? Or am I at least teaching myself so I'm able to properly understand the process? Like, a lot goes into it.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that there is always a level up For sure. Like with every course you take, everything you buy, or any service or product you buy, there's always a
Mhm.
level up. You go level up, but then overnight success, like it's a tad bit, I think, a stretch, because what's success for you may not be for me, and what's for me may not
Yes.
be for you. You know, it's very subjective, right?
Yes.
Like, so
That is
to each their own, I
so
believe.
true. And speaking along the lines of like, those levels, what was your initial like when you first started and you had your business model? How has that evolved over time as you just have found quality people to help, educate you, reinforce your tools, your values, and just, a year and a half, a lot can change in a year and a half. I mean, look at us right now from a market perspective. We're at a 4.2% with inflation. And a year ago,
Mm.
it was a lot higher, but we're still feeling it. So things change like by the day.
For sure. I think when I started, I was solely focusing on digital marketing because,
Right.
uh, when I think I saw a lot of potential there, and there is a lot of potential, right? But there are a lot of competitors also.
Mhm.
And what I noticed in my journey was that, like, because there were a lot of people doing the same thing, there was um, there was this. I think when there is a lot of competition, I think there is okay. Let me start over this question again.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I really because it's so true. Like we see competition, we know what we want to do. It's one hard for us because and more relating my own scenarios. It's hard to really build your own voice, your brand's voice, and how you want to do it, and have that confidence because it's you got the blinders on, but you kind of want to look to the left or to the right to see what other people are doing, and it's good to see what the competitors are doing, but still respect that they've been doing however long for whatever long, and either it works or it doesn't work. And from the superficial level, it might looks like it works where it might look like it's working for them, but it might not. When you actually look at the numbers, they're not getting enough traction. And we see it all the time in a small dosage when you go on Instagram and go, oh, this is a professional account. They've been here for a couple months. Their content is, decent, but they're just not getting the reactions. They're not getting the conversions, and they end up having to close, unfortunately. And the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah, I think I have evolved in finding my right market, and that's how I have evolved in my niche as well. So, like when I was talking
Ah,
about digital marketing, I
yeah,
think I saw a lot of competition with respect to price and not quality. When people are just starting, they are more inclined towards, who's offering services for a cheaper price. So, there is a lot
mhm,
of competition there, right? And then because I was also into operations, I thought that, you know what, like, let me help my client holistically. Because when I started, I was doing a couple of website projects. And because I was working with budding entrepreneurs, they had other things also, because, like, they were wrapped up, like, with multiple things happening with their teams, with their vendors, with their other projects, right? So that's when I thought that, okay, there is a need for project management there. There's a need for operations bit
interesting.
as well there, right? And that's when, like, when I first pitched to the client, and the client agreed. And I'm like, okay, so there is demand for this as well. So
Yeah.
that's when I evolved my business, and I was like, you know what, let me cater to the operations bit of it, because that's where, like, it gets me, like, I think, just like I was talking about, as a kid, I was into organizing, and I would get into that zone. So when somebody gave me that, okay, organize my, I have these projects, and this is like my process, how can you optimize it, and so that I can use it for every other client, and that got my flow. And I was like, you know what, this is it, like, this is what
That's
I want to
awesome.
do. And yeah, and people, whenever I pitched them, and they were like, yes, please make my life easier. And so I think that only happens when you are doing the market research. So, like,
Mm.
like you also said, like, something is working in your head, and then when you see the market, and then you're like, okay, I would need to change.
Yes.
And that's when, like, that comes, because I mean, you will have to evolve in a
Oh,
business.
it's
You
a
definitely
must.
have.
It's absolutely a must. I just really like that. Without saying so, you had that core, memory of being able to help somebody else organize because that's something you're passionate about. And then just
Mm,
realigned yourself to that instance again, where it's like, oh, they gave me the chance to help them. They really benefited from it. And it's something I've been enjoying for years, like from college. So that's something that a lot of people need to draw from just previous experiences that really matter to their core values so that even if you're, I'm an Eskimo selling ice. Why am I selling
mm,
ice? What's my deeper why that makes me get up every day in the freezing cold to do it? And I really respect that because not a lot of people put enough time into why they're doing it and just, oh, I can make a course and, just got to pitch it to people and the course is going to make me money and that's it. But people are able to see through that even if they don't necessarily know how to articulate that. They're like, well, it just seems like a vague promise. I don't relate to the brand. This doesn't seem applicable to me, even though on paper it would solve all their needs that they are legitimately having.
hmm. I think what you said is essentially the purpose.
Yes.
You have to find that purpose. Like for me, the purpose, I think it was there at the back end, but I never thought like people actually need it. Like just like I didn't know that people are not as organized in their space. And then I did not realize, oh, people are not organized in their business as well. So
Right.
I think that is my life's purpose, like, to like clean things up.
So
So yeah.
now I gotta ask from the whole process of, going from I'm just gonna do one model and then it's adapted by, taking in your customers' feedback, looking at the market. What's one mistake that, you've made when first starting out that you would just warn someone who is just starting for the first time to avoid doing?
There were a lot of mistakes I did, and
That's always my response too.
yes, I think a lot of them, and it goes to the fact that like when you are on the internet, everybody is doing their own thing, and you
Yeah.
may think that, oh, this aligns with my brand, this aligns with my brand, so you want to do everything, but eventually, like, and I think that was a good mistake to do. Because like I did so many things and eventually I realized that okay, I think this is what it is, this is what has worked for me. So instead of like, I think going to the fact that the mistake I did, I think one advice I could give was that like, um do everything, do everything, and this is what I have also done. Do everything until you find what is working for you. Because if I say, for example, that LinkedIn works for me, you should try it, and you say that okay, my LinkedIn is for my business, LinkedIn is not great, and it could be the case, it could definitely be the case that probably YouTube is your business's lead generation
Right.
platform.
Platform of choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I think I would, the mistake I would avoid is like um being too rigid on your niche, you know, and not evolving,
Mhm.
because you would evolve and like, and give that leverage to yourself and your business that you would evolve, and don't be too stringent about a particular platform or a particular service that you have. Learn from everybody's mistakes and go over all the YouTube uh, videos that there are, or
Yeah.
Instagram
Oh,
or
that's such a great point because honestly, you don't know 100% of the time if someone's idea of like LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, if it's going to work. And at least if you give the benefit of the doubt, it's not blowing a whole budget. Like you're not paying someone to do each one. That's where, you don't want to do that. Then you at least can say, all right, for the little bit of time I've spent dipping my toe in the water per se, I either feel comfortable where I want to pursue this aligns with my business, or it just doesn't. Like, for example, I am not a fan of, marketing on Facebook. It's just not my
mm,
thing. I rather have more personal conversations through other platforms I'm on. And I'm okay with that. I mean, if that works for someone else, I'm not going to tell them how to run their business because I understand some people have
yeah.
found what works for them. But when people push that this is the end all be all solution, it's, just like a hollow way to try and get emotive reaction from a potential client, which that's not my cup of tea. But that's
Yeah, and I
awesome
think
to share perspectives that you touched on. I really like that because it's true. We can really learn from other people's points of views.
yeah, and I think one of the other mistakes that I would avoid is that like, um See, all these platforms, right?
Mhm.
When I started on Instagram or on LinkedIn, obviously you want to get leads, right? You want to have sales conversions, right? But they would happen indirectly. Like, and let me
Mm.
put that straight, right? So for example, you have been posting on Instagram, and tomorrow you want to approach this coach or this brand, and you want to have a conversation with them. Now think of it this way: if you have zero posts and like a few followers, they may or may not reply. But if you have some quality thing going on your profile, they'll be like, okay, this person is a genuine person, we can hear him, we can understand this person, let me talk. So it opens door indirectly.
That's
So
so true.
that
And that's very similar to how we met via Instagram of just,
exactly.
organic, genuine engagement and not because I know exactly what you mean, where you get a DM from someone who first, is this a lead? Is this someone trying to sell you something? And it's usually the same pitch of, hey, is this a good place to reach you? Well, obviously you messaged me. So I'm either going to respond and you've seen my comments. So I'm going to respond, not to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, I do this, this, and this. Here's my pitch where people are tired of the pitch. There's a proper place to pitch. And if you're talking to more,
Yeah.
investors or people who are controlling the finances, then yeah, it's great to build up to that pitch and be
Mm,
professional as possible. But when you're just reaching out for support or, you know, misinforming them with the hello and here's my offer, you need this offer, people are so
mm,
over it because, like you said, times are changing. So
yeah.
I have to ask, with so much that you do you have a specific team that helps you with all this, or is your internal process just down to the very core, elaborate, and you're able to just service multiple people's needs without really needing anybody else unless it's contractual work?
Right. So, for the backend operations, which I do organizing the systems and the processes,
Right.
and also a strategy bit. So these two things I take care of independently. But when it comes to, for example, executing the strategy, right, that I have proposed, that's when I contact my vendors. So like, if
Okay.
I suggest that, okay, you have to make a landing page for this. So I am not the one who is writing the copy for the landing page or designing the website, or developing even. So that's when I engage with my team of vendors. And yeah, it goes for SEO as well. It goes for like the digital marketing aspect,
Yeah.
essentially. So that's where like I just evolve. Get involved in those projects for the strategy and for the project management. But like execution is taken care of by my vendors.
Now that's smart because you're able, which I just know you, aside from just the interview, you're able to really vet who is working with your clients. And it's not just, oh, yeah, this individual who's a random entity to service them, but you have your brand standard and you're able to protect that from any potential risks of going, all right, I have a vendor that I've worked with considerable amount of times. I've gotten feedback on their work, and it's not just, oh, I'm feeling pressured to hire a team because I feel like with a lot more people being open to social media marketing, they're feeling that pressure that I have to have a team when they haven't even got the time to go explore each respective offer and or platform themselves. And they're just
Mm.
feeling, like you said, that overwhelmed sensation because there's so much that goes into business. And that's just one little puzzle piece that has to has to be addressed.
I think as an entrepreneur, you have to learn everything. In the starting, you have to learn everything. Like I
Yeah.
remember I was so bad with sales. Like I just wouldn't know when to talk about myself. Like, what do I do? And I'll be like, yeah, I do this, I do that. Like I would get so conscious that like, I couldn't even pitch myself.
Mhm.
And then like, but just that part. And then y- not just sales, like you could be bad at, I don't know, taking care of your finances, right?
Right.
So you will definitely have to learn before you hire somebody, like at least a bit of it. People say like for example in the social media also, initially obviously you are crunched in numbers and you can't hire a social media person, so
Mhm.
you will have to learn the basics. And it's nothing like nobody has ever done, everybody has done it. When you start a page, you are the only one who is taking care of your page. And
Oh yeah.
eventually when yeah, and eventually when you outgrow it because you have other things happening in the business, that's when you hire somebody. So you can tell
Yes.
them exactly that this is what is working, and we can carry this onward, and you have to like build up on that. So you have done your trial and error, and then they can take learnings from that, and then from there on do the trial and error, or strategize from there.
I think that's such a great point because in this era where everyone is just addicted to that overnight success, you got to put in your dues. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to have a page. Someone's going to run my page. Well, first, if you're acting as the CEO, your voice, your image is being portrayed by someone else's voice and image. So if they
Yeah.
ever split from the company, there's that risk of, oh, I don't know how to do any of this because, life happens. What if there's a disagreement between two parties? There's so much that could go wrong. And not to be, pessimistic and say, oh, it will go wrong. But if you don't have a contingency plan, you should at least know, okay, these are the analytics of why my posts work. Why am I
Yeah.
posting this way? How do I talk to the consumer? How many touch points are they going through in my, initial funnel? All these things that, it's all right not to know, but when you ignore them blatantly and are just letting yourself stay ignorant, that's when your business is just taking a huge risk.
True.
Now,
True.
along those lines, how do you define success with what you do? And because I know it's from the gist of you telling me being able to help them just clear their thoughts, have their own flow start to surface and go, okay, I'm not lost. I am not, doomed and just in such a bad state or that we tell ourselves with limiting beliefs, but I just need help clearing the plate from time to time.
Yeah, I think success for me comes in holistic way,
Mhm.
because I do the client work, definitely. I do my personal branding, and then I do mentor people in my pastime, and then I do take care of my hobbies, and I think that holistic thing, I think that's what I call success. And also being able to have some free time for myself, and my
Okay.
family and my friends. That's what I call success. And I think that is a more durable uh, success. Like, it's not an overnight success. It's going smoothly. I'm not targeting big numbers here. I'm not targeting huge clients here. They will eventually come. I know it.
Right.
It will come. In business, if you have been consistent and compassionate towards your work, success is inevitable, right? But to enjoy that phase, I think that's what I call success, to have that peace of mind. Because when I started my business, I think what triggered me to start was I was working under somebody, and I was working long hours. But even when I was working long hours, I was just thinking of to myself that if I can work long hours for that company, I can do long hours for myself as well. And I would
Right.
feel more satisfied, you know? So when I started from there, and then now I'm doing able to do the holistic thing, I can build up new hobbies, which I never thought was possible. So that's essentially success for me at this point. But I'm sure it will evolve like everything else.
Yeah, no,
But yeah.
it's allowed. You're allowed to change what the definition is. And I really like that mention to, oh, you're in a 9 to 5 and you're investing so much time into someone else's, business model, would just call it
Mm,
how it is. And I think a lot of people forget that, you could one invest that same energy into yourself, although there are still going to be a lot of hours. There's a lot of, development that requires you to effectively reach people. But ultimately, you are doing that not to just, oh, bring in money. I know some say the monetary value is it. The biggest scam that I feel entrepreneurs tell ourselves is that we need to constantly work, 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 and not understand that we can have that work life balance because of our style of work. We're not chained to a desk where we have to 5 days a week do a 9 to 5. If you have a process that works and it allows you to say, I don't work on Fridays. I,
mm,
just do a little bit of market research and then I spend time with my daughter. Or I let the weekends, that's when I just run rampant because I have a posting schedule that supports mornings and I help clients in the afternoons. Whatever the case may be. I think a lot of people and especially young entrepreneurs don't understand that that's the goal, longevity. You want to have a sustainable life. You're not working to
Yeah.
live, but you want to be able to just do other things that are non-work related. And more people really should start thinking of it like that.
Yeah. It's not a sprint. That's what
Now,
is the key to it.
so now I got to ask you, were you to see yourself like the first time you ever, were going to start a business from where you are right now? And that's the viewer who is just, I think I can do this. What would be one piece of advice that you'd give to them to just keep in the back of their head while they're, on this journey, on their own journey at that?
I think one advice would be to just build up that mindset, that the mindset that, it would be challenging, it would be rewarding, then it would be challenging again, then it would be rewarding. Like, to have that balance, I think that is very important, because I would lie if I said that, I didn't feel like giving up, because the first year is tough, but what's important is that if you are not getting clients at that point, work on your personal brand, work on some other project, do not like give up.
Right.
And I know it's easier said than done, but you have to do that. Like, you have to. I remember, so when I started, I used to look up to this person. I still look up to him. His name is Mike Janda.
Mhm.
I look up to him and look up to his work. And I remember following him when I had just started my Instagram, but I never DM'd him. Right. A few months ago, he posted a story, and I just randomly replied to that story, because he never puts up his face, right? But he put up that his face then, and I just sent a message that, oh, it's so good to see you. And we ended up having a conversation. And I was
Nice.
like, in my heart, I was just like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, he replied to me. And then he had this community call where I just entered, and then he called me his friend, and I was just like, what, are we friends? Yes, is that happening? you know and like, I just got to thinking that, what if I would have stopped working on myself and my business a few months ago? He would have never known of me.
Right.
you know and and things like miracles do happen, and that small things, like, there's this platform I dedicatedly work on. It's called ClickUp. I got verified
Mhm.
on it. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God. So, like, beautiful things do happen, but like, you have to work on that mindset. Like, you just
Yeah.
you just have to. That is very important, because when I was working as in a corporate, it's a different mindset,
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Oh, it's having
when
so
you're off,
many so many
yeah, when you're
friends have
off
told
work,
me.
exactly. When you are off work, you're off work. But like, when you have your own business, you're not off work,
No.
essentially.
No.
Yeah. So you have to work on that mindset. I think that's the biggest advice, because everything will come into place. But like, when you have the right mindset, like, even when you have nothing, you could be happy. You could
Yeah.
you could um take on a few courses, you can learn a new skill, just with that mindset. And then when you have the projects, then you can like completely focus on the projects, and like keep other things in the sideline for when you have the time, right? So be multi-passionate and keep things going on. Don't just like give up. I know it's easier said than done, but like, yeah,
That
that's
is
you
that
have
is
to work on that.
perfectly expressed because you're spot on. Now, I'm there's nothing more to say on that because that was just brilliant. Where can listeners stay up to date with you, your business, or just to hear more about, your journey?
Right. So my website is trashika.com. So that's where, like, I have all my services and all information about myself listed there. But I am mostly active on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
I would love to see when if people connect with me there on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube. I'm literally everywhere.
Perfect.
But I think LinkedIn and my website, that's where my email ID is. So yes, I would love for people to connect with me there. I'm highly talkative and high on
Awesome.
networking. So would love that.
But thank you so much for taking time out of your day to not only just some of these things, it's not like we've talked about before. So it's really awesome to hear other people's thought process and just hear them echo the same things that, I've said to myself in private, and I'm like, am I just crazy to be thinking like this? Or other owners have told me, and I'm like, all right, we're all feeling the same way. Thank you for sharing those moments so that the next generation or people who are feeling stuck can just get that support they need. And, you know, until next time, I'm Nate. We'll see who's up on the Pack podcast, and we'll see you then.